Cool, man. Just tell me on there when you want me to start. A very warm welcome to everyone watching from around the world to the 2019 C&D Xiamen Marathon. As we look at some beautiful shots of Xiamen City, this is the place where the entire marathon calendar for the year starts off here on this beautiful coastal city of Xiamen. As we look at some of those coastal shots now from the helicopter. A very important marathon for the marathon calendar because it is the first one of the year, but of course a very special marathon for all the Chinese runners and of course for China itself, because this has been dubbed as one of the world's most beautiful marathon courses, and I think you can see right now from the helicopter exactly why it is so. Thousands of runners turn up here every January. Of course, a very happy new year to everyone watching. It is still January the 6th. So early enough to say that. Hope you guys had a great holiday. And we have, of course, a great race set up for this morning. It's just gone past 7:20 local time here in China. My name is Jeevan Salvanathan. I'll be taking you through the next 3 hours where, as I said, we'll be looking at the race story from this first IAAF gold label race of the year. A lot of interesting runners that have turned up here today. They're going to be from the 5 nations of Kenya, Ethiopia, the Netherlands, Japan, and China. They make up our elite runners, but of course some 35,000 runners will be taking part today, and they're all going to be starting from the Xiamen International Convention and Exhibition Center. We'll be looking through the map, of course, and plenty of stuff to look at over the next 3 hours. This marathon is going to be a good benchmark for a lot of these runners as to how they deal with the rest of the calendar. And as you can see, there are pretty good weather conditions so far. It was forecasted for about 14 to 15 degrees. We'll get you the exact weather conditions as they come in. But this is good running conditions for any marathon runner. And as I said, on such a beautiful course as well. Well, if you've never been to Xiamen, then you are going to see some of the beautiful parts of it. And if you are a marathon enthusiast, then hopefully we'll get to see some close to world record times. There are some very good runners, as I said, in this field, and we'll be going through them. The big story, of course, for this race in terms of the elites is the battle between Kenya and Ethiopia. Now, a lot of you might be thinking, well, okay, that happens pretty much at every marathon around the world throughout the year. But in this case, the Ethiopians have definitely dominated. And as you can see here, this is in helicopter studio. This very special helicopter that's been built just for this, or just been fitted out, I should say, for the Xiamen Marathon this year. 7 cameras on that helicopter, and they should be catching all the action. And look at that. That's the field of runners all ready to go off in 3 waves. Unbelievable turnout as it is every year. That is the Xiamen International Convention and Exhibition Center that will serve as the start and finish line. And look at those runners, all hydrated, have all put in their preparations and are all ready to go in just under 2 minutes from now. And it should be 3 waves that we've seen. A lot of firsts that will be happening this year for the Xiamen International Marathon. We'll be getting into those once the runners get underway. There's a very big year for the IAAF and, of course, a very big year for the individual runners as well after that fantastic world record that was set by Eliud Kipchoge in Berlin in September, 2:01:39. It is the fastest time that we've ever seen. And will we see times like that today? Well, I can tell you now that the last year's time was around about 2:11, but that was a rain-plagued Xiamen Marathon, and that was won by the Ethiopian Dejana Dibela, who's also running today. Be up right at the front, but he's going to be under some very serious competition from the likes of Eliud Kiptanui, Bazuwoku, and Peter Somé. Peter Somé and Kiptanui, of course, both from Kenya, and looking to bring back some glory to Kenya. So just about at the start line now. Here we go. 2019 Xiamen Marathon. There's another fantastic shot of the turnout. 35,000 people outside the convention center. And the guns fire, and the 2019 C&D Xiamen Marathon is underway. First wave of runners already hitting the track. And as I said, there'll be 3 waves that will be released, I should say. And here they are, taking the first turn. In terms of design, it's a pretty simple course. We'll be looking at that in just a second. But already, as you can see, the elites breaking off just within the first 2 kilometers. And behind them, an army of marathon runners. They could be amateur. They may have run a few marathons before. Plenty of marathons in China to run, of course. Some 300 a year, in fact. They all march past that blue arch, which is the start line. Great shot from the helicopter once again. And that's Ellie, who's going to be keeping us abreast of everything that's going to be happening over the next 3 hours. As you'd expect with an IAAF gold label race, the organization and structure of it's absolutely perfect. Roughly 20 minutes after each wave will be the cutoff time. But water and sponges pretty much every 3 to 4 kilometers. Energy drinks and water every 5 kilometers. Pretty much every 2.5 kilometers there's something for the runners to help them along their way, because marathon running is, of course, as you know, if you have run a marathon before, a very tricky process in terms of strategy and in terms of how you get about it. Whether you're an amateur runner or whether you're an elite runner, you have to make sure that your body is perfectly taken care of, even in great conditions like this. The sun's not out, it's a little bit overcast, but there has been a light rain last night and this morning. And that's just going to mean that it's a lot easier for these runners to get into their stride, into their rhythm, into a good cadence. Whatever level of runner you are, and as you can see, a lot of these runners are here just for the special day out, because over the last 16 years now, the Xiamen Marathon has been running since 2003. It has turned into a very happy, fun, and family day out. Look into the elites, men's, as they come around the corner into the first kilometer. That's Huishan Road. And already we can see them breaking off. Good running form showed by all of them. Marathon running, very special technique. Essentially, you just fall forward and let your body do the rest of the work, but it is important to keep your airways clean, keep your head up, keep a good, strong, steady pose, as that keeps the air into your body. And then, as I said, you just make sure that your arms are swinging in a nice pivot, just like as we can see from the elites here. It's a nice gentle rhythm. Those two paces up at the front. Just there, as you always see at marathons, to do exactly that, to set the pace. Behind them, a legion of marathon runners. There are, of course, great rewards for the elites. I can tell you now, as we get into the first couple of kilometers, that the second wave start will be in roughly 11 minutes from now. First wave was at 7:30. Second wave scheduled for 7:45. It's just now turned, it's just gone past 7:30 now. And the third wave is set for 8 o'clock. And that's how you marshal this amount of people running on this course. It won't stay that packed together for too long, I can tell you that. Another fantastic shot from the heli. And as I was talking about, plenty of rewards for the elites, not just a benchmark for the rest of the year for them. A lot of these guys up front here, as we check in with them again at 1.5 kilometers, breaking away from the pack somewhat. Looks like a pack of 8 runners up at the front. And there is, of course, huge rewards for winning the Xiamen Marathon. I think it's around about $45,000 US for the elite athletes. But if you do manage to break the world record, well, that's $1 million US if you can do it. Of course, that world record, extremely difficult to beat now, 2:01:39 from Eliud Kipchoge, and of course, the previous record, 2:02:57 from Dennis Kimetto. Both of those runners look to be taking an extended New Year's holiday. We'll be seeing them in the latter part, or in the later part of the marathon calendar, but they're going to be watching this from wherever they are, just to see what kind of times get logged today at the 2019 C&D Xiamen Marathon. As we get into 2 kilometers at 6 minutes, so a good pace being set by the elites right now. Roughly, you need to run 3 kilometers. Now let's have a look at the course map for the marathon today. All 3 waves of runners start at the Xiamen International Convention Exhibition Center. They head down Wizan Road, and at 2 kilometers join the South Island Ring Road that makes up the first 15 kilometers of the marathon. At 8 kilometers there, they pass the Zhengchuan fishing village and follow the coast as it curls back up. Kilometers 9 to 12 will take the runners past Xiamen University, then a slight kink in the route, and they will approach Yanwu Bridge by way of Daichu and Yanwu Road. Then it's still on the South Island Ring Road as they head up to the shopping district of Zhongshan Road. After that, the field will turn inland, and at kilometers 17 to 20, they see another hydration stop before they make the U-turn there at Bailuzhou Road, where they go around the People's Hall. Then, that isn't the official turnaround. That happens 2 kilometers later, now back on West Cuban Road and down onto the Island Ring Road again. 31 kilometers, they pass the Hulishan Fort on the beach. At 34 kilometers, there's another hydration stop there. 34 kilometers, it is the Jinming Temple and the famous 99 marathon sculptures at 38 kilometers before making their way to the convention center once again that serves as both start and finish line today. Beautiful run on the coast. A lot of people would say it's a simple structure. It is, but when you have a coastline like this, golden coastline as it's known around here on this South Island Ring Road that the elites have now broken into. As I said, they're keeping a pretty good pace at the moment. And that's the rest of the field following them. And here is the elite athlete list. Eliud Kipchoge, Bazuwoku, and Peter Somé, definitely 3 of the contenders to challenge Jene Debele. A couple of other names in there as well. Jonah Kipkamoy, Peter Karukui, and Daniel Matai. And looking down there, you see the Japanese athletes, Asuka Tanaka, Shingo Igashiri. And looking at the women, well, Shasho Nsemu, Janet Rono, and Fantu Jima, definitely the favorites for this race. Let's see if the likes of Li Dan and Hei Yin Lee, some local homegrown athletes, can break into their dominance. And I said you can just check the time there, 8 minutes for around about 3 kilometers. Still a very good pace being set by the elites. And you can already see it, even at 2 kilometers in, that their running form and style is beginning to differentiate them and separate them from the rest of the pack. Here is this golden coastline that I was talking about. Wonderful road to run on for these athletes. Of course, the elites are not going to be focused on the sea, but it's always a good feeling. Marathon running really is a mental task. It's a mental test to keep your mind working, to keep your body converting that energy, and at its peak optimum level. But such a beautiful road. Xiamen City, famous for having these flat, wide roads, well taken care of. Great shot there from the heli to show that. It's a very good surface for these guys to be running on. This is actually a downhill section of the course, so a little bit easier for them. A lot of people think going downhill, well, it's probably going to help you. Well, it just means that there's different stress on different parts of the body. In this case, of course, the front of the knees is going to be feeling that. And you can just see from these guys, just trailing behind the elites, the difference in running form from you and me, the general runner, and these running machines, as I like to call them, who are the elites. They have trained their bodies so well to run an incredible distance. And here you can see again, good upright stance, shoulders back, head nicely poised, not looking down so they don't block their airways, and the arms swinging in a very good cadence, good stride length, and pretty good form being shown from here as well. That looks like one of the Chinese contingent. It is doing very well up here with the elites in that second group. We've kind of got 2 groups at the moment. 10 minutes completed, still roughly 3 minutes per kilometer. So still at this point on close to a world record pace. I can tell you now, a world record pace is around about 2 minutes 47 per kilometer, and that is what Eliud Kipchoge has set for the rest of the world now. Behind them, as you can see, a lot more runners now taking to the South Island Ring Road. As we just saw in the course map, this road actually makes up a large proportion of the marathon, mainly because of its great structure. But as you can see, it undulates up and down and also weaves around. So a good challenge, but nothing too demanding at this point. So it's about 15 kilometers going this way, and of course 15 kilometers going back as well. So it's about 30 kilometers of the 42.195 that has been devoted to Huangdao Road, and so it should as well. Big salute to all the runners that have come out today. These guys have been registering and qualifying, and they've been up since about 4 o'clock this morning. And look at the gap now between the elites and the rest of them. Now, as we settle into the marathon, I'm going to try and identify exactly who's up there. Well, that's, as you can see, next to the paces. Daniel Matai, in fact, from Kenya now leading. That's Li Zisheng. Personal best of 2:14.18. Not bad. Not bad at all, seeing as how the last year's race was won with a 2:11. So Lee's going to be looking to better that 2:14 if he can. Really good conditions for running right now. Be very cooling, and they should be coming up to one of the hydration and refreshment spots in just about 700 meters from now. So Daniel Matai there on the right of your screen of the elites. We say a big hi to some of these other guys. Good to see all these smiles on the faces. As I said, the Xiamen Marathon really has become a family fun day out for so many people. And you can see them all preparing, of course. And let's not forget, of course, the massive undertaking Once again, as we look at Daniel Matai on the right of your screen, currently leading with the paces. Good start from him for sure. As they hit or coming close to the 5 kilometer mark, all of them showing some really good form. And that looks like Asbel Kipsang, who's matching Daniel at the moment. Asbel with a personal best of 2:07:30. He's definitely got the skills. Just behind Daniel, that's Evans Nyakamba Mayaka from Kenya. And this would be the second wave at the Xiamen International Convention and Exhibition Center. They're ready to go. And if you thought the first army looked good, well, how about that? That's another huge phalanx of runners. And there you go. Second wave just jump-started maybe a little bit. Second wave has started. Gotta wait for the gun. Mainly, of course, 3 waves to clear the routes. Don't want to have 35,000 people off on their own together. So very strategic start from the LOC to have these 3 waves. The 3 waves, of course, one of the new things that's been happening this year. One of the other new things that's been happening this year, as you can just see on the left of your screen, just there, is the blue line. And the blue line is the shortest distance of the marathon, especially around the corners. And if the elites especially keep to that blue line, then they will know, if they do, if they can, of course, and I keep saying that because it's a very difficult thing to do. There is the blue line now going straight through your screen. Well, if they do keep to that, then they'll be assured of being on the shortest possible line through the course. That's something new for this year's Xiamen Marathon. Pretty much every year for the last 16 years, the local organizing committee has brought something new and advanced to the table. And there is a reason for that as well. And I think now that we're settling into the marathon, we can get into it. The IAAF this year has announced that there is a new level of racing that's going to be coming into effect in 2020. And that is, of course, platinum road races. Right now there's bronze, silver, and gold. Each of those 3, if you're new to road race labeling, then those 3 labels are based on various criteria that you need to acquire to become a gold label race. Now the Xiamen Marathon, of course, expertly taken care of. So many volunteers, so many great organizing and structuring protocols that have been put in for the race, means it is always a gold label race. But this is one of the first races this year, being the first race of the year, that could now qualify for the platinum status. You can look up the platinum status on the net, but generally speaking, it's a far more global thing. It means that the elites will have a lot more nationalities in them, be broadcast to a lot more countries as well. And it's a very special honor to get from the IAAF and the Xiamen Marathon, one of the 60 gold label races every year that's going to be looking to get that status as soon as possible. And as we can see from the helicopter, how's that for organization? That's 35,000 people streaming out of the Xiamen International Convention Exhibition Center. All know exactly where they're going, all have their baggages and registration tags and timing chips, of course. Everything has to be timed electronically. Timing mats every 5 kilometers, as you'd expect from a gold label race. So with the level of organization shown this year especially, and from the 16 years before, you would expect that the C&D Xiamen Marathon is one of the bright contenders for that platinum road race label status. That is the second wave of runners coming through. If you've just joined us, the first wave with the elites set off about 18 minutes ago. And they're well on their way now, past 5 kilometers. And there they are, Daniel Matai in the yellow on the right, Asbel Kipsang in the blue right at the front. And the two paces just breaking them up. They are the leaders right now. You can already see at 6.2 kilometers, that pack beginning to stretch out. But still, both Daniel and Asbel showing some great running technique. They've got that forward lean that just pushes you through, means gravity essentially just takes you through. And all you got to do is focus on your breathing. There are so many biological factors that come into play when any marathon runner, especially an elite marathon runner, starts a marathon. I can't go through them now. I wish I knew them, but it's a lot about ATP and glycogen and glucose and how you break that down over the 42.195 kilometers. And really, as I said, these elites are running machines. And they take on oxygen, convert it into energy, and just slow drip it out throughout the race. Many of them will be looking to run negative split times, of course, running one part of the race faster than the other if they can, with that combined aim of looking to better their personal best. I don't think anyone is seriously looking to challenge the world record unless there's a massive surprise waiting for us at the end of this race. But again, that world record is quite extreme now, 2:01:39. I think it could be a long, long time before anyone breaks that, but we'll have to see. Most of these runners, of course, will be looking to put a first benchmark in the ground for the World Championships in Qatar. That's going to be happening in October. But let's not forget, of course, the other gold label races that will be happening after this one. There's the Houston Half Marathon, the Dubai Marathon, of course, Mumbai Marathon, the Seville, Hong Kong, the Seoul International Marathon, all of these. And that's taking us up to March, but it really does. The 60 runs go all the way through. And some of the biggest marathons in the world, of course, as you'd expect, are gold label races. Now, it looks like Daniel Matai has dropped off a bit. He's actually dropped off a great deal. That's him now in the middle of your screen. Asbel Kipsang in the blue, still looking very good up front. Daniel looking to catch up. As you can see, he's just changed his running style, just in the middle of your screen. Maybe he had a slipped step. It could have been a refreshment stop, I suppose. But he's definitely lost a lot of ground from being one of the early leaders. Now, no word yet from last year's winner and reigning champion, Dejene Debela. He finished with a 2:11:22 last year. That was in rain, of course, in the field and looking to better the event record, which was set in 2015 by Moses Mossop from Kenya, 2:06:19. So a very interesting story developing here because, as I said, the Ethiopians have been winning. 2017, 2018, that was men's and women's, Lemi Bahanu and Dejene Debela from Ethiopia taking the men's, and Worknesh Edesa, Meseret Mengistu and Fatuma Sado taking it in the women's, all Ethiopian runners. So the Kenyans definitely looking to break back this year and take it back, but the event record still held by a Kenyan in the men's, and that's Moses Mossop with 2:06:19. Phenomenal time, and if we could see anything close to that today, well, we'll be very happy indeed. So it's 7:40 kilometers now. And there's that gap again. Now, while they get into their run, let's look at some of the beautiful shots of Xiamen City. This city has won so many awards for being such a fantastic place, the most innovative international conference and exhibition city, national ecological city, national forest city. It has something for everyone here. Just 1.5 degrees away from the Tropic of Cancer means a great temperature throughout the year. As you can see, very sunny and very warm during the summer months, and then cools down nicely in the autumn and winter months. And a lot of marathon inspired, shall we say, tourist areas, but so many places. Just in the last week, we've been looking around. Beautiful place, Xiamen City. If you haven't been there, you should get there. As for these guys, well, they're already here, and most of them have been here before. Here is this South Island Ring Road, And as you can see, that's a great shot of the gradient undulation that we're looking at. At 7.8 kilometers now, it's been pretty steady. We haven't seen the biggest inclines yet. It's going to be coming at about 11, 12, and 29 to 34 kilometers. So you can imagine how heavy that's going to be on the body. But right now, heading downhill pretty steeply. And when they get to about 15 kilometers, well, then they're going to look to cut back inland, as we saw from the course. There is a shot of that beautiful beach. They'll have another look at that when they come back, which will be down the other carriageway of that road. Now, let's have a look a bit closer at the elites. Yes, Daniel Matai still missing from that group, and Asbel Kipsang, there in the blue, still leading the pack in front of these two paces. And he picks up some refreshment at the 8-kilometer mark. Interesting technique you need. You don't want to lose any time when you get to these refreshment stops. In your stride, you want to just pick it up, drink it, and throw away the cup. Interesting point for this year is that those cups for the first time at the Xiamen Marathon are now biodegradable. So for the first time, this race is now actually trying to minimize its plastic and of course deposits into the sea, being a coastal city. And it's tied up with the UN and the UN Clean Seas campaign. And some of the numbers, I have to say, that they have come up with or managed to save by using maize straw cups. Those are actually biodegradable cups. It's pretty unbelievable. 10,000 kilograms of paper saved by going all digital this year with the announcements. 200 kilograms of solid dyes, and nearly 1 million cups, which are going to be biodegradable as opposed to plastic. Fantastic move forward for the environment and the ecology, of course, and just another fine part of the Xiamen Marathon. And of course, all of this will feed into this desire and hopefully attainable target of becoming a platinum label IAAF road race. That's Asbel Kipsang, our current leader in the men's. And so far, the only pressure he's facing is from those paces. Daniel Matai right now right at the back of that pack. He pretty much fell off the pace at about 3 to 4 kilometers. It'd be very hard to bring that back. If you are new to marathon running, it's not a question of just sprinting up to the front and joining the pack, because that's going to really affect your condition of body. You have to keep here and incrementally cut into that lead if you can. And let's see whether he can in fact do that. And let's have a word out for those paces as well. Gilbert Masai, Emmanuel Kipkoech, Wilfred Kipchirchir, and Jeffrey Kipkoech. Those paces here. 3 from Kenya, 1 from the Netherlands. Just flanking Asbel Kipsang as he's currently leading the men's elites. Still showing a good running form, strong running technique, Asbel. Now, there are, of course, many ways to look at a marathon. And one of the best ways for the average runner, as I heard it, was there's actually 8 stages. There's the excitement of starting it. That's usually about the first 2 miles. And around about the 5th mile, you get into the second stage, which is denial, where you kind of get to terms with what's going on. Some performances along the way, as you can see. Not uncommon here in China to see these traditional performances set up by local troops and local performing artistes, not just for the elites as they run by, but also for all the spectators. One of the great things about Xiamen City and the Xiamen Marathon is that these wide roads, around about 44 to 60 meters across, I mean, it is actually great for the spectators to watch. There's the highest running Chinese athlete right now, Li Zicheng. 2:14.18, his personal best, and still looking like he's okay. And that looks like Yang Dinghong, if I'm right. Yes, it looks like 50. Yes, it is. In fact, yes, it is. It's 2:11.41, one of the fastest runners. Chinese field looking very good as well. I saw him run in Zhuzhou last year. Put in a very good run there. And they're just trailing this pack right now. Yang Dinghong also competed in the 2018 Beijing Marathon, the Shanghai Marathon. Now all of them run in 2:20. And now time for wave number 3 at the Xiamen International Convention and Exhibition Center. The final wave of runners about to get underway. They've got about 15 seconds before the guns fire. They're all ready. The gun fires, and what should be the final 10,000 get onto the course and make that little breakaway from the Xiamen International Convention Exhibition Center onto Huizan Road, and that'll take them up to the coastline and they can join that South Island Ring Road. Rousing music being played, and there is that excitement stage I was talking about. Now getting back to those stages, this is excitement, the first mile or so, denial in the 5th mile, shock, isolation for the 3rd and 4th stages, despair, and of course the wall at 22 miles before affirmation and elation to hit the 26.2 miles. It is more of a mental test than anything. For these guys, of course, it's about a fun day out, bit of exercise, start the year well, a good New Year's event to be taking part in every year since 2003. One of the most established marathons in China, if not the world. Great scenes from the 2019 C&D Xiamen Marathon. Whether you're doing it for a dare or possibly a challenge to yourself, or whether it has become something that you do all the time, this city is it. This city has been dubbed Marathon City, and yes, you can run in whatever you like. We saw a couple of years there. Once again, you can see the difference in running style between you and me and those elites. There you go, elites, very similar style. Now this is a very interesting turn of events, as it looks like Aspel is still up front, but now is breaking away with a couple of other runners. And if I'm right, that is Dejane Debele in the blue on his right, should be. So Dejane now showing his class, reigning champion of course, finished last year's event with a 2:11 in rain, so looking to cut into that. That was a full 5 minutes slower than the event record, so it's a lot of chance. You can just see in the trees there, good wind. So you just see there the breakdown at 10 kilometers as to how far they're off the record. Not that far, but you'd be surprised what 17 seconds can do. 29 minutes, 41, 32 for 10 kilometers. So still these elites running an incredible pace of roughly 3 minutes per kilometer. That's what you need if you're going to be up in the proper aspect. Now, I said this road, the South Island Ring Road, does take up or create most of the course, and coming up on their right side for these elites will be the famed Xiamen University. Amazing University, as it's actually linked. It's more of an international university than anything else. It's actually linked to 236 other universities around the world. Phenomenal feat, with some 40,000 graduates coming through or studying there at the moment. We went through the campus yesterday. Really beautiful place. There is Dong, now leading the Chinese athletes. Li Zisheng behind him. Said we saw Dong racing last year. There's the campus, you can see just next to him, of Xiamen University. Definitely one of the sites you have to see if you do come to this part of China. And there are campuses of Xiamen University, as I said, in some 236 other countries around the world. It's a huge campus as well. That's going to be on the minds of some of the other runners. For the elites right now, going uphill, as you can see. A little bit of a strain still, though. Aspel looking very good. Dejene on his right. And that looks like it's going to be the fight for the men's race today. 34 minutes in, and the other runners. Now that's a great shot just to see the difference in running style. That's the women's marathon and the men's marathon on the left, women's marathon on the right. Women's just passing 10 kilometers now. You can just see the women just behind. You can just see them settling in behind those male runners. And we'll try and get you all. There you go. That's our first indication as to who is leading that pack. And that is Milian Ebongon. 2:27.16, her personal best. Milian has taken the lead. That's Shaso and Sermu, one of the favorites in there as well. So Shaso already making herself, showing 2:23.28, her best. So it looks like Milian and Shaso are currently leading the women's group. And they're just about to start that descent down to Xiamen University themselves. And after this, of course, they're going to be following the coastline around and then cut inland before the turning back point. And there you can see Shaso and Milian just in amongst these male runners. There they are. Our top two runners, Milian in the red, Shaso in the green. Great technique being shown by Shaso there. You see the shoulders nice and firm, and those arms swinging almost like a pendulum to keep that forward lean going. Great stuff so far. Turning into a very solid run in both the men's and women's divisions. Here are the men again. Dejene Debet, I can see just there in the blue, sitting behind the paces. Aspel still up front. And there are at the split times, Patrick Kipkingeno and Gilbert Masai, the other two runners in there. There's Dejene right in the middle, winner last year, showing some good solid form. There's that blue line again, best shortest distance around the track. Looks like they're heading uphill. Once again, this South Island ring road undulates and weaves with a gradient of up to 10, maybe 5 to 10 meter change. So a lot of pressure on the ankles, a lot of pressure on the calves, especially as you head up. And it looks like there might be a tiny bit of rain. That's going to help the runners. You'd be surprised how much a little gust of wind and a little drizzle can help in terms of cooling the body down. Less hydration needed, but generally speaking, you should keep yourself extremely well hydrated if you are going to attempt any kind of run. And this is Yanwu Bridge here. Another one of the famous tourist attractions here in Xiamen. You can see why, because it has no support beams on top. It's a very flat bridge, which means you can almost feel like you're driving on the sea when you're on it. And it's going to be a great view for these guys. Now, Dejene cutting into the inside. I think that's mainly just to deal with the gradient change downhill. 13 kilometers past. So they have now moved away from the South Island Ring Road and they're onto Yanwu Bridge. So the two paces taking, that looks like Aspel still. And that is the view that they will be just out of the side of their eyes having a look at. You see the volunteer stops in once again. They're great places where you can actually sit and watch this marathon because there's plenty of ample space around. And those are the new skyline of Xiamen, the Shimao Towers. Beautiful buildings. You can just see them on the side of your screen there. Hopefully we'll get a better shot of them because they are quite a sight indeed. Now I can't see any of these elite men's wearing those Vaporfly shoes. New shoe that was developed by Nike over the last 2 or 3 years, specifically meant to break the 2-hour barrier, and is really a barrier in marathon. As I said, the current world record 2:01:39, but everybody has been trying to break that 2-hour barrier, and so far it looks like it can't be done. But you never know with the likes of Eliud Kipchoge and Dennis Kimetto and Kenenzi Bekele still running and still looking to break it. Maybe it can happen. A big shout out to all the people taking part today. We salute your effort. Some are amateur runners and some are professional runners. It is amazing the grip that Kenya and Ethiopia has had on the marathon field. Kenya especially, of course, its high elevation means that the runners have a much bigger VO2 max. VO2 max is, or VO2 is essentially the calibration of how much energy you can continuously produce by converting oxygen while you're on the move, which is exactly what these marathon runners do. There is Gulangyu Island, or the island of pianos. Believe it or not, there's a high density of pianos on the island, but a lot of other tourist and great attractions on there. Very beautiful place indeed. That's off on their left at the moment as they come downhill. And that is Aspel just having a quick look around to see where these contenders are. Really, it's the Dejene he's going to look out for. He'll be on the other side of this pack. There he is. Good running gait from Dejene. He knows what to do here. Just a little adjustment of the shorts. And you'd be surprised how little an adjustment can make such a massive difference in marathon running, whether it is the swing of your arms or whether it is the way you pick up refreshments. Each of these actions, which you have to do, of course, can really echo into a massive time difference. And that's what's going to be on the minds of these elites right now. Good race so far from these top 6 though. Well, top 4 really with the 2 paces. And a great race for the other 35,000 people taking part today. The Xiamen Marathon has generated some massive numbers over the last few years in 2010 it was 50,000 runners. 2012 it was 73,000. 2014 is 77,000. But then after that it was cut into a more professional marathon, in really a full marathon distance, no half marathons or happy runs anymore. And getting 35,000 for a full marathon, men's and women's, is an amazing achievement. So, checking back in with the women, still Million and Chasso up front. Million in the red, Chasso in the green. Chasso taking a quick little look over to see what Million's doing. Wants to keep pace. There are some really big marathons in China. As I said earlier, 300 over marathons in China. It's definitely one of the sports that the country wants to keep at its max. And I was witness for the Lanzhou Marathon and the Zhuzhou Marathon. Both of them saw great finishes as well. And now looking at the record times for the women, well, currently about a minute under. So a lot of work to do there. Looking much closer in the men's for a record-breaking attempt today, maybe a national record. That is where we stand at 10 kilometers. Chasso, Insemu, Million, Nakta, Medina, Tache, and Fantu is also another one of the favorites. So that pack has some potential in it as they go past those two famous Shimao Towers. A lot more of this marathon to go. A good pace being shown by these two up front, Chasso and Million. And more importantly, as I like to point out, if you look at the facial expressions as well, you can see, well, maybe get an inkling into the mental state of these runners, and definitely later on in the race you're going to see them a lot more tired and really having to push through. Right now, that's beautiful running technique from Chasso and Insemu. Forward lean, good pivot, great stride length, good cadence, and of course keeping that head straight to clear the airway, make sure enough oxygen comes through that can be converted through that VO2 max into energy. So Chasso and Insemu, 25 years old now. Finished second in Amsterdam just 3 months ago, 2:23.28. That was her first sub 2:30, but she's known around the circles. 5 titles she's got off 9 marathon races so far, so highly experienced runner in there. No word from Janet Rono just yet, but Fantu Jima is in there. She's still chasing her first marathon win. She's 31 years old. Got the personal best of 2:26.14 in Dubai. That was 4 years ago. And finished third in 2016, right here in Xiamen with a 2:26.53. But she hasn't managed to break that 2:30 barrier since. As we check back in with what I like to call the real stars. Guys that have come out early this morning. They've been training for weeks. They know they might not finish the course. They might finish in 4 hours. They might finish in 5 hours. But their motivation is different from the elites. This is a celebration of Marathon City, which is what Xiamen is. Now, checking back in with the men's elites. And as you can see, at 15 kilometers, well, that gait is getting a little bit slower now. The stride length a little bit wider, but Dejene Debele still looking very strong indeed. Aspel still looking very strong indeed. And these two have broken past it. Sounds like they're just going past another traditional performance. And you just see these spectators lining the streets of Xiamen as they do every January. So now coming into the latter half of the first half of the marathon, and this is the Zhongshan shopping district on their left. one of the prime shopping districts in Xiamen, and favorited by old and young alike. And this will be a downhill stretch for them. And they should be coming up to another refreshment stop. Refreshment stops, of course, one of the great things for all of these runners here. Most of these runners will adopt the walk-run strategy that they need to complete the race. And there is one of those traditional performances I was talking about. Not uncommon to see that at pretty much any China marathon that you do visit, but of course the big ones, Beijing, Shanghai, guaranteed. But Guangzhou, Zhuzhou, and all the other marathon cities or marathon runs in cities, it's not uncommon to see these traditional wushu performances or music performances for the people and the runners. And here they come right past that. You can see how close they are to those performances. Just a little bit of food for the mind in terms of rhythm. That's a great shot there. You can just see the stride length and cadence from the leading men's pack. And for these elites, it really is about just making sure they can keep that running form for 42 kilometers. As your body slowly degrades, it's those last few kilometers that make all the difference. You can see now the gap between the two packs. That used to be one big pack. Still Aspel looking good. And Dejane Debela looks to be on the outside of that pack. He should be. So far, a great run from Aspel Kipsang. There he is, Dejane, just behind him. And there is Dong and Li Zicheng, the two highest placed Chinese runners right now. And they're in that second pack just behind. So now moving through Dongguojian. Looks like they're coming through past Dongshan Road into Lujiang Avenue now. Now the turn inland will be soon. Around about 17 kilometers. They'll turn inland towards the U-turn point. Actually, two U-turn points on this course. First U-turn to get you into the right direction, and the second actual turnaround will be on West Hubin Road. Now, the front pack is already making their way inland now. There should be, there you go, the refreshment stop just waiting for them. And all of the front runners decide, you know what, the rain's just enough, and we don't need that refreshment. One of the paces does. Dejane keeping on the outside of Aspel. Both of them having a quick look at the refreshment spot. And this is a little bit further back now, just on the downhill portion of the South Island Ring Road. Still thousands of people. Some checking their times, some running for the fun of it. Good time to get your shout-outs broadcast to the world. Now an uphill stretch as we approach 18 kilometers. Still Aspel and Dejane leading the pack. Now this is the inland portion I was talking about. Now this road, slightly uphill, so it is a general decrease down. So there are undulations within this road, but the general gradient moves downhill. Inclines can make all the difference in marathon running, and these guys know it. Good pace being shown by them. Now, that's a good shot. That's Aspel Kipsang, there you go, our leader. That's a good shot just to identify that third runner that is in fact Berhan Nebibu Tesfaye from Ethiopia. So, there's Debele. And that's Berhan just behind them in the green top. So these are our top three at the moment for the men's. Milian and Shasso. In the women's, we'll be checking in with them in just a second. And these guys now moving into the 18th kilometer. That should see a left turn up towards Bailuzhou Road and the People's Hall. That will be the first turnaround. The Jane Debella there. Good running gait from him. 23 years old, personal best of 2:07:10 that was set in 2017 at the Eindhoven Marathon. And of course, last year led an Ethiopian top 3 finish, and he pulled away in the final kilometer to take his first marathon title right here in Xiamen with a 2:11:22. Now, no look in for Eliud Kiptanui, who was the fastest man in the field. He's a personal best of 2:05, but maybe in that second pack we'll have to identify him wearing the #1 bib, as you'd expect. But no word from him so far, and no word from Bazu Woku either, the 28-year-old, second fastest in the field with a 2:05:25. We're going to be looking for him at #2 bib, or in that case, Peter Some as well. So 2 of the front runners currently not seen in that front pack, and it may be, even at 15 kilometers, that they are too far back now to make a difference. We'll have to wait and see what happens to the front pack. So really a fantastic performance from Aspal Kipsang from Kenya, trying to bring back the glory of the Xiamen Marathon to Kenya and put right next to, hopefully beat, Moses Mabop's 2015 event record. Moses Mosop's 2015 record, I should say, 2:06:19. That's going to be a tough ask. For the ladies, it's Mari Dibaba from Ethiopia with a 2:19:52. That's the event record, as we saw from the split time at 10 kilometers. Probably about a minute off that right now. So these guys were just 17 seconds off the world record. Now that's a great shot. The runners coming over the bridge. Now making the turn into the Bailuzhou Road, and that, as I said, will take us up to the People's Hall. That's shaped like a great hawk, and that's going to be the first turnaround point. There's another one of those great scenic skyline shots. Really is a beautiful city, Xiamen, not just for the climate, the way it is meticulously taken care of, not just for the marathon, as you can see from the side of the road, every day of the year. Because of this great climate it has, which is subtropical, it means there's a lot of different types of flora and fauna here. It really is a fantastic place in terms of energy and atmosphere. And talking of energy and atmosphere, it sounds like we have another one of those traditional performances about to greet the runners. And there is a shot of Xiamen City. That's the Egret Islet Park. Xiamen itself is an island, and an interesting piece of trivia is white egrets flock here pretty much all year round, and that's why it's known as Egret Island. There's a lot of statues about egrets as well. We actually managed to see 2 or 3 flying around the lake yesterday. Beautiful birds. So across the bridge into Bailuzhou Road. Aspel Kipsang still leading the way. Surprisingly, some might say, Jenny DeBella, the reigning champion, just behind him. No rain for him to contend with this year. It was fully rainy last year. There is the People's Hall as seen from our studio helicopter. Once again, 7 cameras rigged onto this helicopter, so pretty much every view that you want can be seen for this year's 2019 C&D Xiamen Marathon. There is a great shot of the loop that the runners will be running. They've just entered the premises now. Of course, the big question is whether in that second group of runners, Eliud Kiptanui and Bazuwoku Hela are running. They should be, based on their performance and form. But it doesn't look like they're going to be making the top 3 right now. There is the second group. You see, just chasing as hard as they can, but it isn't a question of sprinting ever. Another beautiful shot from the heli. That's Yunnan Lake. And this is the lake that they'll be running by, the runners, straight after the town hall. Great conditions for running today.
改革开放以后啊，人们对环境的保护越来越重视了。厦门用了近20年的努力啊，终于让湖区的生态平衡逐渐恢复了，让离去的白鹭又回来了。
You can just see the runners on that turn around, and then, as you can see, vehicular traffic has been expertly marshaled, so it can still continue. But as you can imagine, many roads have been closed off for this morning, and in fact the full 5 hours that's allocated for all the runners. And it really has been a high level, as usual, of organization from the Xiamen Local Organizing Committee to get this annual event. And that is the egret statue, egret goddess statue there. Really great shots from the helicopter. As we round out back to the People's Hall, so more refreshments for the front runners, and I wonder if refreshments will be the differing characteristic for them. As you can see, 3 different ways of picking up the refreshments on the way. It should be a very smooth action. But what you don't want, of course, is by not really getting the perfect pickup, and then the worst thing, affecting one of the muscles in the ankles and calves, which are your primary work muscles, really. Now, more great views. Xiamen City, white egrets. As we were just talking about, these white egrets flock here. This is some great shots of Xiamen in the summertime. That's Yunnan Lake. That is the egret goddess statue. Beautiful climate here in Xiamen, as we said before. Whether it's a summer holiday or a winter holiday, the winters never get too cold and the summers never get too warm. Wushu, as you'd expect, practiced all over China, and coastal bike rides, one of the special things you can do. Not to mention, of course, the vast amount of aquatic water life. There's so much in terms of aquatic, marine, scenic events that you can do here. Amazing place, Xiamen City. Now back to the men's leading group, as they've just broken 20 kilometers, coming up to the halfway mark. In previous years, this would be the end, or coming up to the end of the half marathon. As I said, since about 2015 or 2017, in fact 2015, I correct myself, 2015 it has been a full marathon only for the Xiamen Marathon. All of this criteria strictly regulated and marshaled towards that aim of becoming a platinum label road race as awarded by the IAAF. Truly global race. After that, this is definitely one of the most well-known marathon races in China. But if you do achieve that platinum label road race, then you're up with the likes of the really big marathons in the world and can not only attract more runners and more, of course, participation, but it is a mark of honor. That, of course, is for the local organizing committee and for the elite races. For these guys, it's about still being in the mix an hour into the race. Another gorgeous shot of Yunnan Lake. Good to see a smile still on the face. These guys, they're definitely feeling the pressure now. Now, looking back at the front pack, it looks like that front pack is actually a little bit closer now to the second pack. That might be perspective from the camera, but it's still Aspal Kipsang and Dejeni Debele up front. Kenya and Ethiopia battling right at the front, at the tip of the spear. Once again, the main big story from today's Xiamen Marathon is, can Kenya regain the top spot after a pretty flawless performance by the Ethiopians over the last 2 years? White egrets also watching the race. Well, you never know, they might be. And I think it does look now that that second pack is getting closer, and it looks like, yes, Eliad Kiptanui is in there. So maybe we see negative split from him. Maybe we see him looking to pick up the pace for the second half of the race. You have to put these strategies in if it's going to work, how you're going to run your race. And of course, once again, a big shout out to Bia in the green. There's Dong and Li Zicheng, the two highest placed Chinese runners. Still showing good running form and technique. Very reliable runner, Dong Guizhen. And a very reliable turnout every year from the legions of other runners as well. Looking at the lake, Paddy just flying over there. Once again, if you've just joined us, wherever you are in the world, this is the 2019 C&D Xiamen Marathon. About 1 hour in now, and looking at the split at 22 kilometers. Well, about 40 seconds off for the men now, still doing very well. Look at the 10 kilometer and 15 kilometer splits, just seconds off the record. But now at 20 kilometers, when that wall starts to hit, and when that fatigue starts to come in, you can see those times incrementally decreasing and those differentials incrementally increasing. And that is the real test for these elite runners. They work in seconds, and they work in incrementally building those seconds as well. Now, my prediction, obviously not the best prediction, but it would be at halfway that that second pack of leading men is going to catch up. Meanwhile, still smiles. 35,000 people taking part today. But my prediction is that second pack might just be able to pull up in the latter half of this race. Great shot of the Some of the green belts in the city. Beautiful place to walk around. And a beautiful place to run around. Wherever you go, essentially, there's a nice wide road for running, should you wish to do that. There's also space at the side of the road to watch. Wow, that looks something that these elite runners don't usually see. Fan making its way off the track. Now, coming up to the U-turn, as you can see clearly from the side, here is the U-turn. So on West Human Road, the first pack leading men's have made the turn back, and now it's going to be everything they just did, except it's going to have to be uphill for a lot of it. Still to come, we have that massive gradient increase from kilometer 28 to 34. That's going to be a huge test for these guys. Now, just looking in that pack to see exactly where Eliud Kiptanui is. It does look to me like that second pack is closing up on the first. This could be just strategy. But we have seen from the timing chips that Eliud is in there. And they're all showing very good running technique at the moment, very good running form. In fact, if I may even stick my neck out, as we said, here is the second part of the course, retracing the steps of the first part onto the South Island Ring Road again, past Yanwu Bridge, this time directly on the coast. And as they hit 31 kilometers, the Fulishan Fortress on the beach, Jinming Temple at 34, and then the unique 99 marathon sculptures at 38 kilometers before they make that U-turn again, and then it's a right turn into 42 kilometers. But here we go. This is the second half of the Xiamen Marathon 2019, and another beautiful performance. Really hats off to all of these performing troops that have got up so early this morning to give a bit of motivation and incentive to all the runners. And to be honest, that motivation incentive is going to really come to these amateur runners as well. Maybe even more so than the elites. Elites, of course, used to running marathons month in, month out throughout the year. Some of these amateur runners might just run 1 or 2 marathons a year, maybe even just one, so it really is a big day out for them. The Jenny de Bele looking a little bit more tired now. You can see his gait is just slowing a bit. Aspal is definitely looking a little bit more tired now. Birhan, another great performance from him. Moved up into second now. And now looking like all three of these guys are actually pulling away from that second pack. Once again, Eliud Kiptanui, the fastest man in the field in that second pack. But as I said earlier, you look at the facial expressions of the runners now. For these fun runners, these amateur runners, it's always pretty much going to look the same. But for the elites, you can definitely see the mental turmoil that starts to kick in round about 22, 23 kilometers. These guys just making their way past, by the looks of it, Zhongshan Road. So the field is now spread quite significantly, but that is down to the fact that these elites just run at such an incredible pace. So they are currently at, I have to do some calculations here. Well, 24 kilometers at 1 hour 13 minutes is still 3 minutes a kilometer. So this is looking good for at least the event record to be broken. As I said, you really need to be around 2.5, 2.47 a kilometer if you're going to hit the world record. And once again, $1 million to any marathon runner that can break that world record this year. Unbelievable amount of money, but when you look at how, well, rare it is to get that kind of timing, it merits it absolutely perfectly. So 2.47 per kilometer is absolute world record. These guys currently at about 3 minutes a kilometer, and 23 kilometers in, that's incredible stuff. Good times being shown. We are also going to be checking in with the women's group very soon to see if Shaso Insemu and Million are still leading that group ahead of Fantu. Looking down one of these old Xiamen streets. So much culture in this city, and every year these buildings get to see thousands, tens of thousands of runners coming through past them. Good shot there of the volunteers and the refreshment staff. Once again, a big shout out to all the officials, the stewards, the volunteers, the TV broadcasters, and of course the LOC itself. Such an exceptional level of marathon organization shown every year here at the Xiamen Marathon. So back with the leading pack, and as we've just calculated, very good pace being shown by both these packs. We're hitting 25 kilometers now. Another shot of the waterway just ahead of Gulangyu Island. That's Gulangyu Ferry. Roughly 6-7 minutes to get across to the island. Well used, of course. Really mild climate considering it is quite north. We're just 1.5 degrees away from the Tropic of Cancer, so definitely it's cool, but nothing too serious. There's Birhan and Dejane now. I'm just wondering as to where Aspel has gone. Aspel has, by the looks of it, hit the wall. Wow, this is big news. Too much for Aspel Kipsang in the end, and he looks like he's hit the wall and he's going to have to stop now. Wow, that is bad news for Kenya. Aspel will not be taking part. Now that is a classic example of hitting the wall. It's essentially where that VO2 max of where your body cannot convert anymore, and the energy stops flowing, and one muscle, mainly in the lower back, maybe in the calves, maybe even in the hamstrings, has suddenly gone stiff. You need that constant burning of ATP and glycogen to keep those muscles active and limber. And if one of them goes stiff, then of course you could risk serious damage. And that looks like that's what's happened to Aspel Kipsang. So Aspel Kipsang, in the end, manages 23 kilometers and is now essentially given those top two positions to the reigning champion, the Jenny Debele, and Birhan Tesfaye, both from Ethiopia, might add. So Kenya now, they were looking to look at shots from this studio helicopter, that's what I like to call it. Look at that. That is a fully equipped 7-camera helicopter. Unbelievable stuff and unbelievable shots to get from it as well. Now, while we are looking at shots from that, let's just get an idea of what's happening here, because Kenya really did want to make an impact after 2 years of solid Ethiopian domination at the Xiamen Marathon. Well, their main runner, Aspel Kipsang, has just hit the wall at 23 kilometers. As we look at Gulangyu Islet, that has left the Ethiopians of Birhan Tesfaye and the current reigning champion of the Jane Debele up front. And at this point, you'd have to say it's going to be very tough for the likes of Peter Some and Eliud Kiptanui to catch them.
我们鼓浪屿的标志性建筑之一，它已经
It's
有
a good look
112
into
年的
Gulanyu
历史
Island.
了。那它最早的主人呢是一位台胞，在1988年的时候啊，他曾经作为厦门市的博物馆。那之后是博物馆搬迁
That's
了，
at the
它就被
Isle of
改建为
Pianos.
风情博物馆了。那这也是目前国内唯一
And that
世界
is
最
no
大的
exaggeration.
风情
There
博
is,
物馆。
it seems, one of the highest densities of pianos per person and per island, I guess you could say,
几乎都被赋予了
on
新的
Gulanyu
生命
Island. Even that is probably worth having a look at, but as you can see, it's very
每天呢都吸引着
quaint,
1000
very
上万的
rural,
游客。另外，我们的鼓浪屿
and very
其实还是
beautiful
一个
from what I've heard.
岛啊
I haven't taken a
现在
trip over there myself. If I do get the time, I will.
这句话就
But
是上个世纪50
major tourist attraction here in Xiamen City.
马约翰先生提出的，那他其实就是土生土长的鼓浪屿人。
Big shout to everyone out in the helicopter and in the studios.
他就是马约翰
As you can imagine, the Xiamen Marathon has become very much of a national treasure, really, and a civic treasure as well for the city.
被正式列入了世界遗产名录。
So 100 meters to
鼓浪屿不仅是厦门的瑰宝
medical station. That's a good indicator of what you need to do to make a gold label race. And this is a great shot because you can see on the other side of the road, that's probably wave 3 that left at 8 o'clock in the morning, making their way up the first half of the course. And on the other side of the road, this is how fast these elites are, running 3-minute kilometers at 27 kilometers. These guys are now really pushing the envelope. But it is a double Ethiopian
在这里环岛前行。
front here.
达女性对体育的
Birhan and Dejene. Dejene just checking the time. He saw Aspel hit the wall, of course. And this could mean that Eliad Kiptanui, who's in that second pack, the fastest man on the course with a personal best of 2:05, could make it into the top 3.
和对岸的高楼大厦形成的这种历史与现代完美融合的画面。大家看到了啊，这样特殊的城市景观啊。
That's the view that they're currently running past, as taken from the moto right next to them.
那我们现在再把时间
That's Gulanyu
交给
Island.
请他带我们近距离
As you can see,
地
about
看
a
看鼓浪屿
6-minute ferry. So they're back on the Yanwu Bridge now. Now looking at the running form of these two up front, Dejene has pretty much kept that running technique since the beginning. He's used to this. A little bit shaky on the shoulders now, you could say, moving from left to right. But still, good pivot swing from the arms, good forward lean, and the cadence of his steps looking very good. If you look at Behan on the other side, you can just see his steps a little bit more, well, kicking up a bit at the back. Pretty good pivot all in the end. But let's not take anything away from Behan Tesfaye. He is in second spot. He's been up with the leading pack since the start of this race. Wasn't expected to be one of the front runners and is proving very well. Looks like he might be struggling a little bit now. And I would expect Dejene, who's, as you can see on the right of your screen, looking far more solid. Both of them have the ideal frame for long distance running. Not too much mass. Dejene, of course, with, as you can see, bigger shoulders, but that's actually helping him as he moves around. But it's not about mass. It's not about building mass. It's about having the frame that works. Now, looking back at the second pack. Just for a second, they're definitely looking a little bit closer. There is the studio heli. And you can just see the difference. That's on the left of your screen, wave 3. The amateur runners coming through. And on the right, well, the elites now moving back towards that turn. Now, this is going to be the place at 28 kilometers where there's going to be a serious gradient change. Roughly, it's been 10 to 15, 5 to 10 meters in terms of gradient inclines. Well, at 28 kilometers, it's going to rush to about 15, as you can see now, moving uphill. And at this stage of the marathon, that's going to be very, very testing on the hamstrings and the ankles and the calves. Back past the beautiful Shimao Towers. One of the latest additions to the Xiamen skyline. Beautiful additions. It's a shame we can't see the top of them. It is quite a wonder. One and a half hours gone, and these guys are still looking very, very good. If they keep running these 3.5 minute kilometers, then we might very well get to see. I'm actually going to try and get a calculation going right now as to where we might be. Well, they're now running 3:11. So well, based on current speeds, there are the Shimao Towers. You can just see them. Beautiful shot of them as you look over the bay from the heli. Well, based on current speeds, that leading pack should be coming through with possibly a 2:09, which would beat the 2:11 from last year, but won't beat the event record of 2:06. But that's based on current speeds. If these guys can, of course, incrementally increase their speed over the next 45 minutes, then they might be able to do it. But they've, as I said, going uphill now quite steeply as well. Birhan, as you can see in the green vest, looking a little bit more haggard now. Dejene still looking very good. And here is the second pack. And once again, I have to say that the second pack, even though we've seen one of the paces now hit the wall as well, the second pack is looking very strong. Big hello to all of the amateur runners. That's the egret goddess statue against the beautiful statue that they're running past. Not uncommon to see people hitting the wall round about here, where your body simply cannot take it anymore. When I say simply cannot take it anymore, that is actually one of the key significant things you have to understand. If you're new to long distance running, and you know, no human body was meant to run 42.195 kilometers. So it's very common to see a lot of people, even with the finest training and even after the greatest preparation, not being able to go any further. There are those Shimao Towers. I did say you should see them from the top. Well, that is the significant part of the Xiamen city skyline these days, and rightly so. If you're going to have buildings that make a skyline, you want them to look like that. Piece of trivia for you, they're actually based on sail shapes, much like the Burj in, much like the buildings in Dubai, shaped as a sail or in the image of a sail. Now it looks like we've had a bit of a merging of the packs as was predicted. If I'm right, that looks like the second pack has now merged with the first pack, so the first pack essentially have either kept at the same pace and the second pack have speeded up, but yes, look at that. So Dejene and Birhan have now been outstripped by what was obviously a negative split strategy by the second pack. They kept their pace down, and now they're going to make a sprint for the finish, or a relative sprint for the finish. And all of a sudden, we have a very much enlarged leading pack, and Dejene Debele, well, he's looking a little bit tired now, and I wonder if this is now going to play into the hands of Eliud Kiptanui, who we know is in that second pack. I don't know if anyone else picked up that that could be We Will Rock You from Queen. Maybe that's just a very familiar rhythm that has been around for many years. Lots of praise going out to those traditional music performances peppering the route. Well, now coming up to 29 kilometers. Should be a refreshment spot at 30, and of course getting close to the Hulishan Fortress at 31. And this is going to be really interesting from here as we move up to 42 because of this newly merged leading pack. Great performance from the second pack of runners that has bided their time. And look at Dejene and Behan now looking over their shoulders. They didn't expect this to happen at all. Well, they didn't expect it to happen so soon, maybe. Negative splits are very common in marathon running, but in all honesty, it was about 5 minutes, maybe 3 or 4 minutes where that second group caught up with the first group, and now all of a sudden, it's a much bigger group for the last 12 kilometers of the Xiamen Marathon 2019. That looks like Eliud Kiptanui just behind them. Oh. That's actually Afewerk Waltensai from Ethiopia on one side, and looked like Chela Biene on another side, just picking out their bib numbers as we got a close-up shot there. Now, the last time we checked in with the women's marathon, it was Shaso Nsemu, Janet Rono, and Miriam Nakta that were leading that. We'll get back to that in just a second and let you know how that's evolving as we move through into these last 12 kilometers for the men. And here is the Hulishan Fortress. Set up on the hill. Military fort from a long, long time ago. Actually give you a bit of background on that as well as you have a look at it. It's a beautiful place. The defensive outpost. Well, as we watch this marathon evolve, still to come, we're going to be checking in with the women's and, of course, tracking this as well. Now that looks like the two leading Chinese runners. Li Zicheng still putting in a very good performance just behind Dong here. And Guo Jian, well respected and well-known runner. As I predicted, or at least calculated, based on the current running pace, the front pack are running possibly a 2:09 marathon at this point, which means for Dong there it could be up to 2:14, 2:15. We're just going to have to check his times. So Dejene Debele is still up front here, but a lot of contenders now around him that might be able to make a sprint for it, because, as I said, they have run a slower first half and really picked up the pace in this second half. And still the smiles radiating from the other 35,000 people that signed up for the 2019 C&D Xiamen Marathon this year. We've been gifted with some great weather, light rain exactly when the runners needed it, just before the race and just about 10 minutes in. And now things seem to be nice and dry, as you can still see the legions of marathoners coming down the first part of the course. They're going to have to do that loop back very, very soon. Meanwhile, back up at the front, men's leading pack, Dejene Debele still in that blue top, just leading the way ahead of Berhan Tesfaye, his compatriot countryman, but now joined by that second pack. What a fantastic turn of events we've seen in the last 10 minutes as they've hit 31 kilometers. And the 1:34, this is where things get very dicey indeed, because the body is beginning to fail, the time is running out. That time, of course, set by Eliud Kipchoge for the world. Now let's look at the splits in terms of the records. Well, about 2 minutes off the record. Yep, that sits with our calculations. But look at the 10 kilometer, 15 kilometer, 20 kilometer, and 25 kilometer splits. You can see the incremental breakdown of the body as they are still pushing themselves as hard as they can, but the muscles are just firing a little bit slower. We saw, of course, Asbel Kipsang, the early leader, have to actually retire because didn't manage that energy transfer well enough, and one of those muscles has pulled up. I looked at his point, that was at 23 kilometers, so that's roughly the time when things start to happen. For the elite runners, those early kilometers are literally just about setting the pace up and seeing how far you can go with your contenders around you, but it's really from about 20 kilometers on where marathons are really run. And that's what these guys are facing right now. They're coming up to 32 kilometers. Still, Dejene Debele and Berhan Tesfaye. And that's, you can either hit the wall by retiring altogether, or you can hit the wall like this, where your very best just seems to be not enough. As all your muscles are firing a bit slower, and those gaps start getting longer and longer. But this is the first marathon of the year for these guys. Most of them have already said in the press leading up to this event that this is a benchmark for the World Championships in Qatar in October. Of course, plenty of marathons still to come for them, whether they go for the big ones, the Berlin Marathon, where most of the records seem to be set these days. And there's the Boston Marathon, the London Marathon, of course. London Marathon last year was the hottest on record. 52 degrees generally the temperature, 50 degrees Fahrenheit, generally the temperature that you want to be running in. Or the London Marathon last year was 72 Fahrenheit. It was absolutely a scorcher. Now, 31 kilometers, and these guys up at the front are right in the middle of the incline attack, as I've called it. Between 28 and 35, the inclines on this course really start getting up to about 15, 20 meters. And that's going to be a huge, huge pressure on hamstrings, quadriceps, calves, ankles, Achilles heel, of course, the motor engine for these guys. Achilles heel, one of the easiest injuries you can get. Achilles basically springboards yourself into your next step, so it keeps that continuous motion going. You want to take that very carefully. And maybe, in the case of Asbel Kipsang, of course, retired after 23 kilometers, that it was one of these muscles that is finally given away. And no matter how well you train, and no matter how many times you do get into it.
那我们现在来看
Any of those muscles could pop at any time. Now, looking into the women's, and I can see Chasso and Sermu still looking very good.
华侨陈嘉庚先生创
Milian Nakhtar not so far seen in that pack. Looks like she may have dropped off.
传统民俗啊，所以他精心设计了厦门大
So Chasso and Sermu
把闽南的这种
now the clear leader in that pack,
还有中国
running with this
街山
almost bodyguards of male runners around them.
眼前这种非常独特的建筑风格了。那厦门大学
They're at 28 kilometers, so roughly 3 kilometers back from
世界医
the
疗大学和一流学科的
male runners.
有高校啊，而且咱们厦
I'm
大
just
学
trying to get an idea as to who that is next to Chasso.
尤其的
Chasso definitely has kept her pace up, and
我们厦马开跑的第一年啊，厦
somewhere along the way, Milian
开设
has
马拉松
fallen
课程，培养出了
by the wayside.
也擅长跑步的学生啊。那每年呢都有近3000名的厦大学生会报名参加马拉松的全程比赛。17年来，厦门大学已经有超过2万人次。
And now another great shot of the Xiamen University,
看来厦马的赛道
and that is actually a very special part of the Xiamen University.
好，现在我
As
们
one of the tail ends of the campus,
到了比赛的赛道上。从我这个角度看，咱们的选手啊，仿佛
right next to Xiamen University, the Nan Putuo
也是我们
Temple.
大桥这个赛道的特别之处了。
Now this is again the massive incline.
要跑上
These guys are facing
大桥
32 to 34 kilometers.
最后10公里的比赛了。现在领先梯队的情况怎么样？他们到哪
And
了
looking at
杨
the
健赶紧带大家去看
Split
看吧。
for those. That's actually the split for the women. Just a quick correction there. It looks like Chasso and Fantu still in the mix for that one. And do stick around afterwards. Coming up after this will be the prize presentation of both the men's and the women's elites as we look at yet more beautiful shots of the host city for the Xiamen Marathon, and that is Xiamen City. This is the Vinchuan fishing village and some of the beachfront activities that happen on the vast coastal area. And of course, if you are more of the shopping and cuisine side of things, well, there's plenty to see here. Wonderful food and shopping districts. Something for everyone here in Xiamen City. Definitely worth a visit if you're making your way to China. Lots of coastal areas, of course, Zhuhai, another coastal area, but there is something very special about Xiamen in the way it's set up, in the way it's built, in the way it's structured, and the way it's organized. And maybe that's why most of these elites come back. But of course, in amongst all of that, this course that runs along Huandao Road has been dubbed one of the most beautiful marathon courses in the world. And that's a great shot of the kind of inclines that these guys are facing at 33 kilometers. So those legs are absolutely burning now. Still, Jenny Debele looking good right now for a second consecutive win, and one that should be a lot faster than last year. 2:11:12 was last year's winning time for him. As I've calculated it, and that was just a few kilometers ago, he should be on for a 2:09. Be very happy with that, but it's still a little bit way off the 2:06 that was set by Moses Mossop from Kenya in 2015. The women's record, of course, 2:19:52 for 2015. I'll have to get a little bit more information as to the current speed of the women before we can start making any real idea as to what they're going to be finishing in. Meanwhile, Dong Guozhen and Li Zisheng. Li is now just taking the lead for the meantime. That could have been down to the refreshment stop. But these two flying the flag for the host country. As I've said, Dong Guozhen, well, I've seen him running many times last year. So guaranteed he's going to put a finish in. It's just a question of how fast that finish is going to be. And well, that's just a great shot. Sometimes you got to dress up to make an impact, catch the cameras, which they have. 33.97 kilometers with an hour 43 gone. Uphill steeply, as you can see. This is the last of the incline attack. After this, it should level out at 35 kilometers. But you can just see the slog from all of them. Meanwhile, life in Xiamen continues at a different pace for these few hours of the morning every January. And that is down to the local organizing committee once again, who managed to seamlessly close off the roads, get everyone registered, timed, and set up for 5 hours on a Sunday. And here is the turn back point at West Hubin Road for
其实这个厦门大学是我们下马赛道上
the other runners as we check in again with that leading pack. And as I said, this up to 23 kilometers was two leading packs. It looked so different. It was two leading packs and it was being led by Asbel Kipsang, but that has all drastically changed now. And you know what? There's actually a few more runners that have dropped off that pack. Could have even been one of the paces. It looks like it might be. As you can just see at the top of your screen, runners just falling behind. Now, that in the blue top is Belachu Ameta from Ethiopia at the back. Next to him is Chela Dechasa from Ethiopia in the red and white. These are the other guys sharing and possibly looking for that third place. And I think that should also be, well, I didn't quite catch that bit, but different runners this year making their impacts. And still nothing from Eliud Kiptanui. We're going to have to say that the fastest man by statistic on the field is looking like he isn't going to finish in the top three today. Definitely touted, or in fact Peter Kimeli Some, 28-year-old with a 2:05.38 personal best, not to be seen today. So now moving up to the end of the South Island Ring Road, and this is going to be an interesting part for these marathoners because at 38 kilometers they're going to see the 99 marathon sculptures that were made obviously to pay tribute to the Xiamen Marathon that happens every year. 99 sculptures over 2 kilometers of various degrees of marathoner running a marathon with camera crews, everything in 2-meter high copper statues. If you haven't seen it, it really is something to watch, and we should get to see it very, very soon. Meanwhile, the runners now passing 35 kilometers. Definitely some refreshments going to be picked up. Energy drinks. I just have to say, really fantastic performance from Birhan Tesfaye in the green top. He's been right there at the top, or within the top three, since the start of the marathon. Wasn't expected to be one of the front runners. Really put in a fantastic performance. Whatever happens today, whether he finishes first, second, third, or fourth, I'm sure that this might be a very good time for him, maybe even a personal best. Well, his personal best is actually 2:09, 2:04, so if this marathon does conclude with a 2:09, then Birhan in the green top there, dark green top, might just be on for a personal best, which would be fantastic. Dejene, well, his personal best is a 2:07, so I don't think he's going to be. And that is the Sifit logo. Very important statue in terms of business and trade here in Xiamen. And for these marathon runners, well, it's the first glimpse of the home straight, because they know now that they're getting very close to the end. Now remember, at the end of any marathon, it's not really a question of sprinting, it's a question of doing the best you can. But you can't really suddenly push your body into a sprint from this running gait with the condition you're in, because you might just do yourself more damage than benefit. So if they are going to speed up, you probably see the likes of Dejene Debele speeding up in the next 3 or 4 kilometers. While they do that, let's have another look at Xiamen City. There's direct airline, of course, Xiamen Airlines, to get you there pretty much immediately from anywhere in the world. It's urban, it's ecological, and it's economic as well. And it's one of the big centers of tourism and trade, and a national treasure in China. Whether it's the Yanwu Bridge, Zhongshan Street, Road, nightlife, lights, and atmosphere. That's what it's all about. And of course, during the daytime, you can hang out at the beach. Another great shot of why this course is so well done. Well, looking back at the women now, definitely we can confirm now that Miriam Nakhtar has dropped off the wayside. Chasso and Semu still up front. Looks like ahead of her compatriot, and that should be the men's and women's. Women now at 32 kilometers, still 3 kilometers behind the men. So it should take them roughly another 10-11 minutes after the men finish to complete their marathon. Now, we've seen some great finishes in China, of course. Some Chinese marathons over the last year, and I wonder if we're going to see one now between these two. But good running form still from Chasso and Semu. So you can see one of the paces dropping back. And it's this uphill incline, 32 to 34 kilometers, that is proving to be the difference again. There is Chasso and Semu. And that behind her is the lady that has taken over the mantle of Miriam Nakhtar. And that's Medina Amino from Ethiopia. So Medina and Chasso, the two that have broken through the pack. Fantu Jima, by the looks of it, has dropped back behind these girls. And that's confirmation of that. Well, it says Medina's 30 seconds behind it. I don't think that's the case. A little bit more than that. We're getting all sorts of motivation here from the volunteers at the side as they come up into that 34. This is the high incline part of the track, 34 kilometers, up to 20 meters of an incline increase here. And then it levels out from 35 to 42, a slight dip at 39. Very hard to read. Both of them so far looking very strong. Chasso still with those strong shoulders, good pivot to the arms. Medina also showing strong shoulders and a good pivot at the arms. And even from the facial expressions at 32 kilometers, these girls are looking in good shape. Now, at 1:53 as we look at these ladies. Now that is the peak part of the turning back point, both sides of the road. The biggest skew of runners coming through, but as you can see there at the bottom of your screen, a little bit of fatigue being shown now. Not so many smiles when you get to 22, 23 kilometers. These guys roughly 10 kilometers behind those elite leaders. And here are the elite leaders. And the men's Dejeni now back up front. Birhan has just settled in behind this pack. Balachu, Ameta, Chele de Chasa in the white and red following them. Many questions will be asked as to where Eliud Kiptanui, Bazu Woku, Peter Kimeli Some were today. Now looking at the splits at 35 kilometers, well, as you can see, good 2 minutes off now. What used to be just 17 seconds at 10 kilometers has exaggerated to from 2 minutes 38 seconds. Now, the record is 2:06. I said that it could finish at a 2:09, and of course with 2:38 on top, that means that we are currently on for a 2:08, maybe a 2:09. So, as predicted or as calculated, these guys have managed to stay within 3.5 minutes per kilometer, which is unbelievable pace as usual from the elite runners. And this is the business end of the Xiamen Marathon. 1:55, 37 kilometers. Looking like it's going to be a 2:08, 2:09. That should be greatly helped by the fact there was no rain today. As I said, last year that man, number 4 in the blue vest, Dejeni Debela, had to run through rain pretty much the entire race, ended up with a 2:11. Li Zicheng is now left, by the looks of it, Dong Guozhen, and is now the leading Chinese runner. Yeah, good performance from him throughout. We checked in with him earlier. Now the prizes, of course, for these guys, there are different prizes for national runners, Chinese national runners, and the elites. $45,000 for a less than 2:09:30. 25,000 if it's 2:09:30 and above for the men's elites. That pretty much sticks the same for the women's as well, except they're set at 2:26 and 2:26 and above. And it's about 50,000 yuan for less than 2:15, or 25,000 yuan for 2:15 above in the men's for the Chinese category. So for the women, that's a 2:32 and a 2:32 and above. 2:32 less than gets a 50,000 yuan, and a 2:32 above gets a 25,000 yen bonus. So the prize is coming into play now, but really for these elites, it's about benchmarks. They want to find out what they're going to be running or how they're running as they've come into the new year. As you can imagine, when they're not running marathons, training, diet, and nutrition is pinpoint accurate for all these guys. Maybe they took it. And now we're getting to those marathon sculptures. That is one for the amateur runners. But as we start, you'll see more active poses from these 2-meter high copper statues. Has to be said that if any marathon was going to make it to that platinum label road race event as awarded by the IAAF, then the Xiamen Marathon should definitely be in contention for that. Absolutely top class organization. And they may be focused on something else right now, but these elite runners are thankful and very appreciative for that top level of organization and execution. The Xiamen Marathon, the largest full marathon race in China. 35,000 people taking part. Now, Dejeni Debele has just slipped to the back of the pack as we hit the 2-hour mark. And this is a great little snapshot as to what athletes, elite athletes, are going to have to run if you are going to break 2 hours. Well, this is where you'd be finishing. And as you can see, currently, even at the elites, they're a little way off that. Now you should be able to see as Li Zicheng goes past the men's chaser there. Some of these marathon statues really are quite a sight to behold. Great shot from the studio helicopter. Once again, for the first time this year that your fully fitted 7-camera helicopter has been circling the Xiamen Island and of course the course. So the 2-hour mark broken again. And I think anyone that watches a marathon anywhere around the world is going to hope that one day that we're seeing the finish line at this point. 2:01:39, of course, is the world record set by Eliud Kipchoge. We're about to hit that, as you can see at the bottom of your screen. These guys roughly 3 kilometers away from the finish now. Now, I wouldn't take the formation of this pack right now to be anything more. It could be Dejeni just waiting for his last burst of speed. Don't forget, he sprinted, essentially sprinted, relatively sprinted the last kilometer of last year's marathon to win it. Maybe that's what he's trying to do right now, but right now at the front of that pack is Belachu Ameta. Chele de Chassa just behind him. Birhan Tesfaye next to him, and Dejeni Debele just bringing up the back of this pack. 2:02:16 is where we're at now. Still looking good for a 2:09 finish. If these guys can keep this pace up, you'd expect them to be picking up just a little bit, as much as they can now. They've got to watch themselves for injuries round about here. You don't want to accelerate too fast. But good running form still, as you can see from Dejeni. Looking good for a top 3 finish, regardless whether he beats his personal best of 2:07:10. Well, that's looking a bit unlikely now. But really into the last stretch now. Well, the J. Debele at the back there, the number 4 bib, looking a little bit more tired, but he has managed to push his way up to the front of this pack. I think he knows now that this is going to be the big push for him. Into the last 2 kilometers. Still looking good for a 2:09. Should be a fantastic finish. That'll be 2 minutes faster than last year's finish. Here they are. There'll be a little turnaround point here, and then it is onto that Huisan Road. It'll be a right onto South Huisan Road, and then it'll be another right into the Xiamen International Convention Exhibition Center. Here they come. That is the final turnaround for them. Almost there. And Dejene is going to be looking for his opportunity. That is Afewerk Waltensai from Ethiopia. So it is looking like it's going to be another Ethiopian win here at the Xiamen Marathon. That was the big story coming into this marathon as to whether the Kenyans could come back and win back their title, of course, after Moses Mossop's 2015 event record setting 206, sorry. And as you can see from the clock, that doesn't look like it's going to be beaten. 206.19. But I think we are going to see better than a 2:11.22 from the last marathon, 2017. It was Lemmy Bahanu with a 2:08.27. And 2016 was Vincent Kiprutu, also from with a 2:10.18. That was the last time Kenya actually won this specific marathon. 2017, 2018 has just been all Ethiopian dominance, and it looks like that's going to continue at 2019. They've just passed 41 kilometers now. 2:06.19 is the current record. As you can see, the time is ticking down there. So no event record today. Moses Mossop can breathe a bit easily as it was close. But it does look now like we are going to get a very good time here, as predicted at the beginning of the race in the men's elite. Here they come with that big right-hander. Now they'll be able to see the tops of the Xiamen International Convention Exhibition Center already. The roars of the crowd get a little bit louder. Dejene has started to put the heat on. As you can see, he's just distancing himself from the pack. It looks like it's going to be a defending champion. Just keeping an eye off his right shoulder as to where everyone else is. And what a performance from Birhan Tesfaye, number 7. Not expected to be one of the front runners, but he has come through today. His best, a 2:09.24. It looks like Birhan might be beating that. So he might be the big winner from this pack at number 7 in the green bib. For me, definitely one of the stories of the race, that he's managed to keep up with the front leading pack since the very beginning. So really great training and conditioning from him. And now as they all push themselves, there is the Xiamen International Convention and Exhibition Center. Now you can just see that Chela Dichasa is breaking off from the top 3, and this has to be our top 3 now. Is it going to be 2 consecutive wins for Dejene Debela? Now he's really putting the power on. This is exactly what he did last year in the last kilometer of the race. Manages to find this well of energy and is almost sprinting to the line. That is a fantastic achievement from him. He makes the final turn. It's close enough. It's a 2:08.51. We're definitely going to be beating the record from last year. And he hasn't beaten his personal best of a 2:07, but we are going to be finishing, as I predicted, in a 2:09. The elite men's come through for the 2019 C&D Xiamen Marathon. There's nothing Afrowork Walton say can do. The Djene Debele has come through again with a 2:09, and Afrowork has come in, and look at that. Berhan Tesfaye with a 2:09.34. Well, that is 10 seconds off his personal best. So a great performance from him, but unfortunately he's not going to be taking away that, and that is Belachu or Meta coming through in 5th. But what a fantastic performance from the Djene Debele from Ethiopia. And we'll be catching up with them on the podium. They're obviously going to have to recuperate. Such a shock to come through all of a sudden and just stop running. So they are going to have, of course, cooling drinks, warming blankets, making sure that their bodies are all fine. Now, getting back to the two front women, it is Shosa and Shasho, and Medina. Shasho in Semu. Mijana from Ethiopia, looking to break a 2:23.28, and Medina, who wasn't expected to be up with the front runners, she's looking to beat a 2:29. Now that's a classic example of how you need to pick up the right amount of water the right way as well. If you're going to lose any time, you shouldn't be through rehydrating and refreshing yourself. If you've just joined us, this is the end of the 2019 C&D Xiamen Marathon. This is our leading Chinese runner, Li Ziheng. Looking good, looking strong, pretty much throughout the race actually, has to be said. We've already had our 3 winners come through in the men's. The Djene Debele, the defending champion, with a 2nd consecutive win in the 2:09s. I get the exact second as it has been logged when it comes up. In 2nd place, a fantastic performance from Afrowork Walton Say from Ethiopia. And in 3rd place, my vote for performance of the day from Berhan Tesfaye. It was 10 seconds off his personal best, and that was set last year. So getting faster, Berhan, but he really did put in a fantastically solid performance from front to back in all aspects. So here comes the top Chinese runner at the Xiamen Marathon into the final stretch. Dongguo Zhen, who was running with him, has dropped off the pace a little bit. Can't be seen right now. Now, this is going to be good news for Li Ziheng. If he can finish in less than a 2:15, which is looking very likely now, then he's going to get the top prize award in addition to rank 1. Absolutely in isolation, nobody threatening his position at all. Should be looking good for a 2:15 and under. Here he comes, getting a lot of motivation from the crowd. If I'm right, this should be the turn into the Xiamen International Convention Exhibition Center. If it is, then he is going to be finishing on a 2:15. Well, it says 400 meters to the finish. Yes, it does look like this is going to be the big right hand for him. So it's going to be top prize and a very good finish indeed for Li Zizheng. Well, he's got 1 minute to make that last stretch. And these are the micro numbers it comes down to. 2:15 and below, 50,000 yuan and first place. 2:15 and above, 25,000 yuan and first place. Money's not going to matter to him, but the time certainly will. This is going to be a very close and very close finish indeed for him. Li Zizheng comes through the finish line. Well, 2:15.10 in the end by official timing, as we just saw. So 10 seconds off that prime spot, but still a very good time for him and China's leading runner. Meanwhile, back in the women's, well, they're closing in on that finish line now, and it's still Medina and Shasho. Now, Shasho is one of our favorites in terms of running. No finish in the end, or top three finish for Fantujima or Janet Rono. The 25-year-old Ethiopian Shasho Nsemu finished second in Amsterdam 3 months ago with a 2:23.28. That was her first sub 2:30 finish, but such an efficient runner. 5 titles in 9 marathon races. Definitely one of the people to be watching. And of course, these two were joined by Miriam Ibongon for a while in this race. Another one of these sub 2:30 runners. But she looks like she has either hit the wall or dropped back significantly enough that she may not be finishing in the top 3. Now, Shasa just hanging back here, letting Medina sit in front. They're at 39 kilometers, as you can see now. Now, what they're looking to beat, of course, is a 2:19 event record. That's looking unlikely at this point, but a 2:26 from last year would mean they have bettered the time from last year. For Shasho, well, she's going to be looking to beat a 2:23 personally. And Medina is going to be looking to beat a 2:29, which is looking very likely. So really, of these two performers, you'd have to say that Medina, Armino, should be coming through much as Birhan Tesfaye did, with a performance of the day, which will be remembered for sure. Meanwhile, the other 35,000 runners, if they are still at that number, making their way around the turning back point. That's at 21 kilometers at West Hubin Road on the other side of town. And still a lot of energy, a lot of smiles there. And a lot of refreshments and hydration still available for them. Xiaoshu now moving up. No time to look at the gorgeous coastline right now for these two ladies. All they can see is about 50 to 100 meters ahead of them. And just keep willing themselves as they go uphill here. This is the last uphill bit on the course. But it's just a mild incline compared to kilometers 28 to 34, which, as I said, saw a 15-meter incline increase. Well, that's a classic example of missing your refreshment spot. Look at the amount of time that Xiaoshu has picked up just from Medina. Getting a little bit confused as to where that refreshment was. Well, I've been talking about it for the last 2 hours and 20 minutes as to how every tiny part of your run has to be at least at a passable level. It has to be at a decent, efficient level if it's going to result in the personal best or national record. And just there you saw that even if you just miss refreshment and hydration spots or execute them a little bit off tack, then you can lose a lot of time. This may have been what happened to some of the other front contenders, but it certainly doesn't look like she's missed anything. Still could be a good second spot for Medina. Xiaoshu still with that really rock solid pivot of the arms and the shoulders has been carrying her through. Hasn't really shown any signs of fatigue yet. And now they come to that final turnaround point. There they are. There's also a good shot of that blue line. This is the first year that the blue line has been added to the Xiamen course. A little bit of boost for the runners so they know the shortest distance by sight. (2:21:53). Once again, Xiaoshu in Semu's personal best at 2:23:28. So that's looking like it's out of reach now. Whereas for Medina, her personal best at 2:29, that's looking very much within reach. So into that big right hand, 2 right-handers left, and how about that? Great form from Medina Amino. Pushed herself as much as she could and has redressed the balance after that very slow refreshment break. I think she wants this win, and now Xiaoshu is going to have to prove herself, lagging behind a bit. Medina Amino in this last 40th kilometer has really pushed up, but then a huge burst of speed. And you've got to understand the amount of power and energy needed to push yourself at this late stage of the marathon to get that little boost of speed. Xiaoshu and Medina both look like they want this title, and Xiaoshu is now looking like she's got that extra gear in the tank to do it. Medina looks to have settled into that second spot. unless he's going to make another huge run. Xiamen should be able to take it from here. The convention center, as you can see, just right next door to them. They make that big right turn, and yes, it certainly looks like Xiamen is not going to be caught this time. 2:24. How is that going to put up? Well, 2:26 was last year's time. 2:26.41. I don't think we're going to see another colossal burst of speed from Medina Amino. The victory theme, as you can hear, is playing in the background. Xiamen Marathon, one of the big names, has come through, and this will be her 6th title in 10 marathons for the 25-year-old Ethiopian. Fantastic run of events she's had. She's not going to be close to that 2:05.38. Sorry, the 2:23.28 that she put in Amsterdam 3 months ago. That was her personal best. She's blitzed past that already. But it does look now, even though it seems that Medina Amino here is picking up her pace a little bit, I don't think she's going to have enough. She already made a colossal effort to get ahead. Well, it looks like she's actually managed to do it. Xiamen may have completely slowed down in this last kilometer. It looked a little confusing, but that might be her there. In which case, Medina has come through. No, that was in fact a different runner. It should still be Xiamen up front, based on that helicopter shot. Medina is definitely putting a charge in, as you can see here, though. This is the last stretch. No, I stand corrected. Xiamen has indeed dropped off the pace. And Medina Amino is coming through now. She's not only going to beat her personal best of 2:29 and put in a sub 2:30, but she has managed to best Xiamen Marathon in the last kilometer of the race. And for a lot of observers, they would have thought, well, there you go. It looks like that might even be Dong Rogen in front of her. But for a second, that looked like Xiamen. So, what a performance. She fell behind in the last 2 kilometers. Looks like she is going to beat her personal best and set a brand new personal best. The wild card for the day. Medina Demi Amino comes through. And Xiamen Marathon in the end comes through second. I'm sure she's going to be happy with that. It was the last kilometer that in the end differentiated both of them. So many changes of the lead in that last part of the race. What a finish in the women's full marathon. Xiamen was in it pretty much all the way. Medina crept in. And let's not forget, of course, Milian, who was also in there. Milian Ebongan. But what a finish. We're going to wait for the third place finisher here. The finish line for any marathon is a place of elation, triumph, but also exhaustion as well. As you can well imagine, what a race it's been in the men's with that consecutive win for Dejene Debela. second consecutive win after taking it last year, but much faster this year with a 2:09. And then, of course, a beautiful run from Medina Armino, who is going to get my most valuable runner award in the women's division anyway for putting in such a great run. She's bested her personal best, and she's taken top spot, and this would be third place. Coming up the final stretch. That is actually Fantu Jima. So we have two of our top runners that have finished in the top three. Fantu has put in a very good performance in the end and turned up in third spot, managed to keep her mind and wits about her even though she was running in isolation. She hasn't beaten the 2:29, but she has taken third spot at the 2019 C&D Xiamen Marathon. So Medina Armino in top spots, Shasho Insermu in second, and Fantu Jima in third. Fantastic results from the men's and women's division. Well, what a race it was for these three. Bihan Tesfaye coming in third spot. Gingerly gets on the podium. Great run from him. Afterwork Woltense in second spot. And for the second consecutive year, the champion, the Jaina Debela. Our three winners, and once again Ethiopian domination here in the men's field. The Kenyans tried to stop them, but really were outclassed on this day. There'll be plenty of marathons for the rest of the year for them to compete. Of course, Kenya and Ethiopia, such giants, colossal giants in the marathon scene, long distance running scene in general, whether it's 15,000 kilometers, 5,000 kilometers, all the way up to 10K and half marathons and full marathons. These two countries have provided and produced some true superstars. But what a run there by the Jaina Debela. Was under pressure from Asbel Kipsang up to 23 kilometers. Kept his wits about him, moved through that. Asbel fell by the wayside and then was under a lot of pressure always from Bihan. But again, for the second year, sprinted into the last kilometer to take the marathon title. And our VIPs hand them their trophies. Fantastic result in the men's division. He's going to be very happy with that, the Jaina Debela. Wreaths, trophies, prize money. But to be honest, these are things that these elite runners do expect. Really, it's benchmarks, and a 2:09 for this year is a very good time for Jenny DeBela, and he'll be looking to increase upon that. I'm sure he'll be back next year to defend his title. And here are the Czechs. Big money, big checks, and that's confirmation of that with a 209.25 in the end. Jenny DeBela, Afterwork, Walton Say, and Birhan Tesfaye. So that's the men's division taken care of. And while we let the women recover, I'm sure they'll be making their way up to the podium very, very soon. The runners, of course, still on the course. Plenty of runners. Those roads will be closed off and systematically opened after each of the last runners come through. But they will be marshaled and managed for up to 4 hours. So another couple of hours on top of this. And here's a little highlights from the beginning. That was the first wave of runners coming up. And as you can see early on, well, Li Zicheng, who would end up being the fastest Chinese runner, he was doing very well. All smiles early on in the morning, just after 8 o'clock. This is the second wave that was starting off at 7:45. And then there was a third wave as well. Oh, Sun Wukong, or whatever costume you'd like to dress up in. Now this was Million, Nakta, and Shasho and Sermu, the early leaders in the women's field. Shasho looking very good there. You can just see Medina after that behind her. Meanwhile, up at the front, well, Jenny DeBela in that blue vest, he was always up there and always looking to make a move at some point. At this point, of course, we still had, well, we didn't have Asbel Kipsang, who was out at 23 kilometers. This is coming into the last part of the course at 32 kilometers. Chasso still looking very good. Meanwhile, legions of runners passing past the turn back point. And this was the final stretch for the men's. And once again, they have come through with a very good time indeed. And with that, we have come to the end of the 2019 C&D Xiamen Marathon. A big thanks to all the organizers, broadcasters, and the LOC for putting on another fantastic marathon. We'll see you again next year.